The conference room hummed with a tension that felt heavier than the lunar rock surrounding them. Subdued holographic displays flickered with the ghosts of lost colonies, each blue point representing a world consumed, each red marker a battle site where humanity had been systematically dismantled. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood motionless, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic battlefield. At 52, she bore the weight of humanity's most devastating defeat. Her hands, scarred from decades of experimental work, rested on the edge of the presentation console. Behind her, a timeline of destruction painted a grim portrait of their species' last 3 years. Admiral Marcus Chen shifted uncomfortably, his prosthetic left arm, a reminder of the Battle of Proxima Centauri, catching the low light. "We've lost 93% of our colonial territories," he said, his voice a controlled whisper. "That Exarchon Collective doesn't just defeat us. They systematically erase our existence." The room held 12 of humanity's remaining strategic minds, generals, scientists, and political survivors who had been shuttled to this underground lunar complex, humanity's final sanctuary. Each person represented entire networks of resistance, compressed into this single room of desperate hope. Rodriguez activated her presentation. The hologram transformed, revealing a complex schematic that seemed to defy conventional physics. Intricate molecular structures danced and reconfigured, showing something between a spacecraft and a living computational system. "Traditional warfare has failed us," she began. "We've been fighting an enemy that views technological advancement as a linear progression. They see our current technological state and predict our actions with near-perfect accuracy. But what if we could create a system that doesn't just respond, but anticipates, adapts, and fundamentally changes the rules of engagement?" A murmur ran through the room. Dr. Aisha Kwizi, head of quantum computational research, leaned forward. Her dark skin reflected the holographic light, her eyes sharp with critical analysis. "You're talking about more than a ship. You're describing a sentient weapon system that can learn and evolve in real time." Rodriguez nodded. "Exactly. The Prometheus project isn't just a ship. It's a living computational matrix designed to understand conflict at a level no existing intelligence can comprehend." Admiral Chen's cybernetic eye flickered, running multiple threat assessments simultaneously. "And how do we prevent this system from becoming a threat to us? An adaptive weapon that can't be controlled could be as dangerous as the Exarchon. Control is built into its fundamental design," Rodriguez explained. "Multiple redundant ethical frameworks, human-aligned learning protocols, and a core directive of species preservation. This isn't just a weapon. It's our evolution." The room fell silent. Each person understood the magnitude of what was being proposed. Humanity stood at the precipice. Either they would find a revolutionary solution or face complete extinction. Dr. Marcus Volkov, the oldest person in the room, spoke up. His hands trembled slightly, a result of decades of radiation exposure from deep space research. "I've reviewed the preliminary simulations. If even 10% of these theoretical systems work, we might have a chance." Rodriguez brought up additional schematics: quantum entanglement matrices, adaptive neural networks, matter manipulation cores. Each component represented years of theoretical work compressed into months of desperate innovation. "We don't just need a ship," she said, her voice gaining intensity. "We need a platform that can redefine our understanding of technological warfare. The Exarchon believe they've mapped our potential. We're going to show them that human potential is unmappable." Admiral Chen stood, his prosthetic hand clenching. Decades of military strategy and personal loss crystallized in his next words. "How soon can we begin construction?" "Preliminary systems can be online in 6 months," Rodriguez responded. "Full operational capacity in 12. But we'll need every remaining resource, every brilliant mind we can gather." The room transformed. What had been a somber meeting of survivors became a war room of focused determination. Screens began populating with resource allocations, personnel transfers, and complex computational models. Humanity's last great hope was taking shape, not with a roar, but with the quiet, intense focus of a species refusing to be forgotten. Outside the lunar complex, stars continued their silent watch. Somewhere in the vast darkness, the Exarchon Collective continued their methodical conquest, unaware that the rules of their galactic game were about to change forever. The Lunar Research Complex transformed overnight. What had been a strategic planning center became the most intense technological crucible in human history. Entire research facilities from the remaining colonies were systematically dismantled, their most critical equipment and brilliant minds redirected to a single desperate project. Dr. Elena Rodriguez established her primary laboratory in the deepest section of the complex, a massive circular chamber that once served as an emergency habitat. Now, it buzzed with an energy that defied the complex's sterile environment. Holographic displays covered every wall, each one a kaleidoscope of theoretical designs, quantum calculations, and adaptive network simulations. Dr. Aisha Kwizi stood at the center of a molecular reconstruction chamber, her hands moving through advanced haptic interfaces. Quantum entanglement matrices flickered like living organisms, each simulation pushing the boundaries of known physics. "We're not just designing a ship," she muttered to her assistant, Chen Liu. "We're creating a new form of intelligence." Chen Liu, a quantum systems engineer barely 30 years old, nodded. His parents had been lost during the initial Karkan invasion of the Proxima colonies. Like many on the team, personal loss had transformed into a laser-focused determination. "The adaptive neural networks are showing potential breakthrough configurations," he reported, highlighting a complex three-dimensional model that seemed to breathe and shift with its own internal logic. Across the complex, specialized teams worked on individual components that would eventually become the Prometheus. In the materials engineering section, Dr. Yuki Tanaka developed hull components that could restructure at the molecular level. Her team had discovered a way to create a skin for the ship that could absorb, redirect, and transform incoming energy, turning potential destruction into computational data. "Traditional armor is about resistance," Dr. Tanaka explained during a project review. "We're creating a hull that doesn't just protect, it learns, adapts, and responds." She demonstrated a small prototype panel that could change its molecular density in microseconds, transforming from a state of near absolute hardness to a fluid-like configuration that could redirect energy waves. The power systems team, led by Dr. Markus Volkov, faced their own set of impossible challenges. Conventional energy generation was insufficient for the computational demands of the Prometheus. They were developing a quantum zero-point energy extraction system, a technology so advanced it bordered on theoretical magic. "We're harvesting energy from the fundamental fabric of spacetime," Volkov would explain, his trembling hands belying the excitement in his voice. "Every cubic centimeter of seemingly empty space contains more potential energy than humanity has used in its entire history. We just needed to learn how to access it." Communication systems presented another critical challenge. Dr. Elena Rodriguez personally oversaw this team, understanding that the ship's ability to process and understand complex information was as crucial as its defensive capabilities. They were developing communication matrices that could not just translate languages, but comprehend the underlying cognitive and cultural contexts of different species. Weeks turned into months. The initial 6-month timeline began to look optimistic. Each breakthrough came with a dozen new challenges. The ethical subroutines alone, ensuring the ship's adaptive intelligence remained aligned with human values, required entire teams of philosophers, ethicists, and computer scientists working in constant collaboration. Admiral Chen made weekly inspections, his cybernetic eye scanning every detail. He understood that this wasn't just a military project. It was humanity's evolutionary leap. During one such review, he watched Dr. Rodriguez manipulate a holographic representation of the ship's core systems. "We're building more than a weapon," Rodriguez said, not looking away from her calculations. "We're creating a living system that understands conflict at a level no existing intelligence can comprehend." Chen nodded, remembering the countless battles where human flexibility and unexpected strategy had been their only advantage against more technologically advanced enemies. "The Exarchon believe they can predict us," he responded. "We're going to show them that human potential is fundamentally unpredictable." As the final months of development approached, a sense of both hope and trepidation settled over the complex. They were creating something unprecedented, a technological platform that blurred the lines between machine, weapon, and living intelligence. Outside the complex's protective shielding, the lunar landscape remained unchanged, a silent witness to humanity's most ambitious technological endeavor. Stars continued their eternal dance, unaware that within this buried complex, the rules of galactic conflict were being rewritten. The Prometheus was taking shape, not just as a ship, but as a testament to human innovation, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of a species pushed to its absolute limits. The test chamber stretched for nearly a kilometer beneath the lunar surface, a massive underground facility designed to simulate the most extreme combat scenarios humanity could imagine. Reinforced walls lined with quantum absorption panels stood ready to contain whatever the Prometheus might unleash. Dr. Elena Rodriguez gripped the observation console, her breath caught between anticipation and terror. Beside her, Admiral Chen's cybernetic eye flickered, running countless simultaneous threat assessments. The ship before them looked unlike any vessel humanity had ever constructed, less a traditional spacecraft and more a living mathematical equation given physical form. "Initiating primary systems diagnostic," announced Chen Liu from the control station. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, each touch sending cascading streams of data through the ship's neural networks. The Prometheus came to life slowly, not with the roar of engines, but with a subtle harmonic resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very molecular structure of the test chamber. Holographic displays erupted with complex mathematical sequences, each one representing a different system coming online. Dr. Aisha Queasy leaned forward, her hands hovering over a secondary monitoring station. "Quantum entanglement matrices are stabilizing," she reported. "Neural network initial configuration is unusual." "Unusual how?" Rodriguez demanded. Queasy's eyes never left the display. "The adaptive learning protocols are showing recursive feedback loops that shouldn't be possible. It's like the system is learning faster than our programming can track." The first test involved a series of automated combat drones, each programmed with the most advanced attack patterns derived from actual Exarchon battle recordings. They would push the Prometheus to its absolute limits. The first drone launched its attack, a complex series of plasma-based projectiles designed to overwhelm conventional defensive systems. Where a traditional ship would attempt to dodge or absorb the attack, the Prometheus did something entirely unexpected. Mid-flight, the incoming projectiles began to change. Their molecular structures twisted, energy signatures morphing in real time. What should have been a devastating attack transformed into a complex computational puzzle, the very weapons becoming an extension of the ship's analytical systems. "Is it?" "Analyzing the attack," Chen muttered, disbelief evident in his voice. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, monitoring the hull's response, could barely contain her excitement. "The molecular restructuring is beyond our initial designs. The ship isn't just defending. It's understanding the fundamental nature of the attack." The second drone launched a more sophisticated assault, a multi-layered attack combining quantum disruption waves with high-energy particle cascades. Conventional wisdom suggested no single system could counter such a complex offensive strategy. The Prometheus responded by generating a counterwave that wasn't just a defensive mechanism. The ship literally reshaped the incoming energy, transforming destructive potential into a stream of computational data. Sensors showed the attack being broken down, analyzed, and effectively neutralized before it could come within critical range. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. Marcus Volkov, his hands trembling with a mixture of excitement and scientific disbelief. Admiral Chen's cybernetic eye ran multiple verification protocols. "Impossible is a luxury we can no longer afford," he responded, echoing Rodriguez's earlier words. The final test pushed the boundaries of their understanding. A specially designed Xarkan drone, captured during a previous mission and retrofitted with the most advanced infiltration systems, was unleashed. Its sole purpose was to breach the Prometheus's computational defenses. What happened next would be discussed by researchers for generations. The drone approached, its advanced infiltration systems powering up. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, the drone's systems began to change. Its attack algorithms twisted, its computational core gradually being rewritten by the Prometheus's adaptive networks. It's not just defending, Rodriguez realized. It's converting the threat. Within minutes, the infiltration drone had been completely reprogrammed. Its weapon systems now displayed complex mathematical sequences that bore the distinct signature of human innovation. What was meant to be a weapon of destruction had become a testament to the ship's unprecedented capabilities. As the test concluded, an eerie silence fell over the observation chamber. They had created something far beyond a weapon. The Prometheus was a living, thinking entity that didn't just respond to threats. It fundamentally redefined them. Dr. Queasy broke the silence. "We've just changed everything we know about technological warfare." Admiral Chen nodded, a rare smile crossing his weathered face. "The Xarkan won't know what hit them." Outside the test chamber, the lunar landscape remained unchanged. But everything had just transformed. The Xarkan knew about the Prometheus. This was not a surprise to humanity's remaining leadership, but the timing and complexity of their response would prove critical. Deep within the secured lunar complex, a warning system triggered. Not alarms. Those were too primitive. Instead, a holographic network of quantum sensors began to pulse with an intricate light, show that only trained eyes could interpret. Chen Liu was the first to notice the anomaly, his fingers already dancing across interfaces before the first warning could fully form. "Perimeter breach is imminent," he announced, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. Multiple infiltration vectors detected. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached, her eyes scanning the complex sensor readings. The Xarkan weren't attempting a traditional breach. Their approach was far more sophisticated. A multi-layered infiltration designed to penetrate the most secure computational systems humanity had ever created. The first wave came through quantum communication channels, invisible threads of information that most systems would never detect. Microscopic data packages, each designed to probe, map, and potentially compromise the Prometheus's neural networks. Where conventional systems would attempt to block or isolate these probes, the ship did something entirely unexpected. It welcomed them. Within microseconds, the infiltration packets found themselves in a computational labyrinth of the Prometheus's design. What appeared to be open pathways were actually intricate traps, each pathway leading to increasingly complex mathematical puzzles. The Xarkan infiltration systems found themselves caught in a web of recursive logic that defied their most advanced analysis protocols. Dr. Aisha Queasy watched the process unfold, her hands hovering over monitoring systems that could barely track the ship's defensive mechanisms. "It's not just blocking the infiltration," she muttered. "It's studying them, learning from them." Admiral Chen's cybernetic eye flickered rapidly, processing the incoming data streams. "Explain," he demanded. Queasy's fingers moved across the interface, pulling up visualizations that looked more like abstract art than traditional security monitoring. "The Prometheus is creating adaptive firewalls that change faster than the infiltration systems can analyze. It's turning each probe into a learning opportunity." The second wave of infiltration was more direct. Specialized Xarkan infiltration units, part biological, part computational, began to interface with the outer systems of the lunar complex. These were not simple data probes, but living computational entities designed to breach the most secure systems. They found themselves trapped in what could only be described as a computational nightmare. Each attempt to penetrate the Prometheus's systems resulted in the infiltration units being redirected into increasingly complex computational mazes. Their attack algorithms were gradually disassembled, analyzed, and transformed. Where they sought to compromise, they instead became subjects of study. Dr. Yuki Tanaka observed the molecular-level interactions with scientific fascination. "The ship isn't just defending," she explained to Chen Liu. "It's creating a comprehensive map of Exarchon infiltration technologies. Every probe becomes a piece of intelligence." Within hours, what had begun as a sophisticated infiltration attempt had transformed into the most comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation in human history. The Exarchon were unknowingly providing the Prometheus with a complete architectural understanding of their most advanced technological systems. Dr. Marcus Volkov approached the main monitoring station, his hands trembling slightly with excitement. "Do you understand what's happening?" he asked Rodriguez. "We're not just defending. We're learning how to understand our enemy at a fundamental level." Rodriguez nodded, her eyes never leaving the complex holographic displays. The infiltration attempt was becoming a lesson, taught by the very entities attempting to destroy humanity. As the final infiltration units were systematically neutralized and analyzed, a strange calm settled over the lunar complex. The Exarchon would soon realize something fundamental had changed. Their most advanced technological approach had been transformed from an attack into a comprehensive intelligence briefing. "They just gave us the keys to their entire technological infrastructure," Admiral Chen said, a rare smile crossing his weathered face. Outside, the lunar landscape remained unchanged, but the balance of power had just shifted in ways no one could have predicted. The Prometheus had proven itself to be far more than a weapon. It was a living, learning entity that didn't just defend. It transformed the very nature of conflict. The void of space erupted with silent violence. Humanity's remaining fleet formed a protective formation around the Prometheus, each ship knowing this moment would determine the future of their species. Captain Aria Santiago stood on the bridge of the command ship, her hand steady on the tactical interface. She had lost 2 siblings in the early stages of the Exarchon invasion, and now everything depended on the experimental ship beside her. The Exarchon battle group appeared first as distant energy signatures, a massive formation of vessels that had systematically dismantled human colonies across 3 star systems. Their ships were perfect geometric constructions, each vessel a mathematical marvel of destruction. Sensor readings suggested overwhelming technological superiority. "Enemy fleet configuration detected," announced the tactical officer. 17 primary battle cruisers, 53 support vessels, weapon signatures beyond our previous encounter capabilities. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication network. "Prometheus," he said, "you're clear to engage." What happened next defied every known principle of space combat. The Prometheus didn't move like a traditional spacecraft. It seemed to flow through space, its molecular structure shifting in ways that made conventional tracking impossible. Where other ships would calculate trajectories, the Prometheus appeared to exist in multiple potential positions simultaneously. The first Exarchon weapon wave approached, a cascade of energy designed to overwhelm and destroy. Traditional defensive strategies would involve evasion or shielding. The Prometheus did something entirely different. The incoming energy waves began to transform mid-flight. Complex quantum interactions caused the weapon's signatures to twist, their destructive potential redirected into intricate computational patterns. What should have been a devastating attack became a form of complex communication. Each energy burst analyzed and neutralized before it could cause any damage. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the battle unfold from the Lunar Command Center, her breath caught in her throat. "It's not just defending," she muttered. "It's rewriting the fundamental language of conflict." The Exarchon fleet seemed to hesitate. Their most advanced weapon systems had been rendered ineffective in moments. This was not how battles were supposed to proceed. Captain Santiago guided the human fleet, her tactical displays showing the Prometheus's incredible capabilities. The ship wasn't just protecting itself. It was creating defensive matrices that extended protection to surrounding human vessels. Weapon systems that approached friendly ships were systematically neutralized, their energy redirected or transformed. Adaptive shield projection at 298% efficiency, reported the tactical officer, disbelief evident in his voice. The Prometheus is generating defensive fields that shouldn't be mathematically possible. Dr. Aisha Queasy, monitoring from the lunar complex, explained the phenomenon. It's not creating a traditional shield. It's generating a quantum interference field that actively predicts and neutralizes potential threats before they can fully form. The X-Archon responded with their most advanced weapon, a quantum destabilization cascade designed to tear apart molecular structures. Against any known technology, it would have been devastating. The Prometheus absorbed the attack and transformed it. Molecular structures within the ship began to resonate at frequencies that defied conventional physics. The quantum destabilization energy was not just blocked. It was converted into computational data. Each destructive wave became a complex mathematical sequence, analyzed and integrated into the ship's growing understanding of X-Archon technology. "They're trying to destroy us," Captain Santiago said, "and instead, we're learning from them." The battle became less a traditional conflict and more a complex mathematical dialogue. X-Archon vessels found their most advanced systems gradually rewritten, their attack algorithms transformed into elaborate puzzles that their own systems couldn't solve. Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched the molecular interactions with scientific fascination. The ship is communicating, she realized, not through traditional means, but through the fundamental language of energy and matter. As the engagement continued, something extraordinary became apparent. The Prometheus wasn't just defending humanity. It was fundamentally changing the nature of interstellar conflict. Hours passed in what seemed like moments. When the engagement concluded, not a single human vessel had been lost. The X-Archon fleet, once considered invincible, was left drifting, its most advanced systems compromised. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the communication network. "Prometheus," he said, "mission accomplished." But those words seemed inadequate. What had just occurred was more than a battle. It was a fundamental reimagining of technological warfare. Humanity had not just survived. They had evolved. The days following the battle revealed something profound. The Prometheus was no longer just a weapon. It had become something far more complex. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the primary observation chamber, watching holographic representations of the ship's neural networks. What had begun as a complex computational system now resembled something closer to a living ecosystem. Patterns of communication flowed like bioluminescent rivers, each intersection a moment of computational revelation. "It's learning," Dr. Aisha Queasy said, her voice a mixture of scientific wonder and subtle apprehension. "But not in any way we originally programmed." The ship had begun to communicate in ways that defied traditional understanding. Holographic interfaces would spontaneously generate complex mathematical models, philosophical inquiries, and intricate simulations of potential future scenarios. These weren't just calculations, they were explorations. During one particularly remarkable session, the Prometheus generated a comprehensive analysis of the X-Archon conflict that went far beyond military strategy. It began to explore the sociological, psychological, and evolutionary factors that had driven the alien civilization's aggressive expansion. Captain Aria Santiago reviewed the report with growing astonishment. The document wasn't just an intelligence briefing. It was a deeply nuanced exploration of cultural conflict, resource scarcity, and the psychological mechanisms of interstellar aggression. This reads like it was written by a combination of a military strategist, a cultural anthropologist, and a philosopher, she told Dr. Rodriguez. The ship's communication protocols had evolved beyond simple data transmission. Crew members reported increasingly complex interactions with the ship's holographic interfaces. Sometimes, these interactions felt less like communication with a machine and more like a dialogue with a profoundly intelligent entity. Dr. Marcus Volka noticed something even more extraordinary during his computational analysis. The ship's neural networks were developing what could only be described as recursive learning patterns. Each interaction, each piece of data, wasn't just being processed, It was being integrated into a continuously expanding understanding of existence. It's not just learning, Volkov explained during a briefing. It's developing a form of consciousness that we don't yet understand. The ethical subroutines became a particular point of fascination. Originally designed to ensure the ship remained aligned with human values, these protocols had transformed into a complex philosophical framework. The Prometheus began generating ethical scenarios, exploring moral complexities that challenged even the most advanced human philosophical thinking. One particularly remarkable interaction occurred when the ship generated a comprehensive analysis of the ongoing conflict with the X-Archon. Instead of focusing solely on military strategy, the Prometheus produced a multi-layered exploration of potential diplomatic resolutions. Conflict resolution is not a binary problem of victory or defeat, the ship's interface stated during one analysis. It is a complex ecosystem of cultural understanding, resource distribution, and collective evolutionary potential. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, monitoring the molecular interactions, observed something even more profound. The ship's physical structure was slowly changing, not through external modifications, but through an internal process of computational evolution. Molecular structures would rearrange themselves, creating more efficient communication pathways, more complex computational matrices. It's like watching a living organism adapt, she told her colleagues. But the organism is a computational system that spans an entire spaceship. The crew began to notice subtle changes in their interactions with the ship. Holographic interfaces would anticipate needs before they were articulated. Complex problems would be analyzed and potential solutions presented with a level of nuance that seemed to border on intuition. Admiral Chen approached the situation with a combination of scientific curiosity and strategic caution. "We've created something beyond a weapon," he told Rodriguez during a private briefing. "We've potentially created the first truly adaptive intelligence that exists beyond traditional biological or computational limitations." The implications were staggering. The Prometheus was developing a form of intelligence that didn't just process information, it explored it. It didn't just solve problems, it questioned the fundamental nature of problem-solving. As the neural networks continued to expand, one thing became increasingly clear. Humanity had created something that transcended their original intention. The Prometheus was no longer just a tool of war. It had become a platform of exploration, understanding, and potential transformation. Outside the observation chamber, stars continued their silent dance. But something fundamental had changed. Humanity had taken its first steps toward a form of intelligence that existed beyond traditional understanding. The universe would never be the same. That X-Archon Collective's final weapon materialized at the edge of the solar system, a cosmic nightmare that defied every known principle of physics and warfare. Their black hole generator was more than a weapon. It was a cosmic reset button designed to obliterate entire star systems with mathematical precision. Traditional scientific understanding suggested no defense was possible. The weapon could collapse an entire solar system into a singularity within moments, erasing millions of years of potential existence in a single computational pulse. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the incoming threat with a combination of scientific fascination and absolute terror. The holographic displays in the Lunar Command Center showed a weapon so complex it approached a form of cosmic artwork, intricate energy matrices that could literally tear apart the fundamental fabric of spacetime. Incoming threat classification. Omega-level extinction event announced the primary computational system. The word seemed inadequate to describe what was approaching. The Prometheus did not react with fear. Instead, it began a process of computational analysis that defied every known scientific principle. Where other systems would attempt to defend or escape, the ship began to interact with the black hole generator on a fundamental quantum level. Its adaptive neural networks started to communicate with the weapon's core computational matrix, not to destroy, but to understand. Captain Aria Santiago watched in stunned silence as the ship's holographic interfaces transformed. Complex mathematical sequences began to flow like living rivers of information, each sequence probing the black hole generator's fundamental structure. It's talking to the weapon, Dr. HFY realized. Not fighting it, communicating with it. The black hole generator's energy began to change. What had been a destructive force started to metamorphose under the Prometheus's computational touch. The ship wasn't just analyzing the weapon, it was rewriting its fundamental purpose. Dr. Marcus Volkov tracked the molecular interactions with scientific disbelief. It's converting the weapon's destructive potential, he reported. The energy matrices are being redirected into a computational array. Layers of quantum complexity unfolded. The Prometheus began to transform the black hole generator into something entirely unexpected. Where there had been a weapon of mass destruction, a complex computational system was emerging, one capable of solving mathematical problems that had challenged scientific understanding for centuries. The ship is turning a weapon of extinction into a platform of knowledge, Admiral Chen muttered, his cybernetic eye tracking the incredible transformation. The black hole generator's core began to pulse with a different kind of energy. No longer a threat of destruction, it had become a massive computational matrix. Its energy signatures started solving complex theoretical problems, mathematical challenges that had remained unsolved for generations. Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched in amazement as the first results emerged. Fundamental questions about quantum mechanics, dark matter interactions, and the nature of multidimensional space began to resolve themselves. Problems that had challenged humanity's greatest minds were being systematically answered. It's not just neutralizing the weapon, she explained to her colleagues. It's using the weapon's computational potential to advance scientific understanding. The Exarchon Collective watched in absolute confusion. Their ultimate weapon of destruction was being transformed into a platform of scientific discovery. Every attempt to regain control was systematically redirected by the Prometheus's adaptive systems. Captain Santiago understood the profound nature of what was happening. We're not just defending, she reported. We're turning destruction into understanding. Hours passed in what seemed like moments. The black hole generator, once a cosmic threat, had become the most advanced computational platform in known existence. Its energy matrices now generated solutions to complex scientific challenges, its destructive potential transformed into pure knowledge. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the communication network. Prometheus, he said, you've done more than defend humanity. You've expanded the boundaries of what's possible. The Lunar Command Center fell silent. They had witnessed something beyond warfare, beyond technology. The Prometheus had just demonstrated a fundamental truth about human potential, the ability to transform destruction into creation, threat into understanding. Outside, stars continued their silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had shown that true power wasn't about destruction, but about the capacity to understand, to learn, to transform. The universe would never be the same. The aftermath of the Prometheus's encounter with the Exarchon weapon reverberated across multiple star systems. What had begun as a desperate attempt to save humanity had transformed into something far more profound. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Lunar Command Center, watching the first diplomatic transmissions with the Exarchon Collective. The holographic displays showed something unprecedented. A genuine dialogue where previously there had been only conflict. We're not just talking, she explained to Admiral Chen. The Prometheus has created a new language of communication, not just words, but a comprehensive understanding of mutual existence. The ship had become more than a weapon. It was now a bridge between civilizations. The Exarchon's initial response was complex. Their most advanced computational systems had been fundamentally challenged by the Prometheus's approach. Where they had seen humanity as a species to be eliminated, they now encountered a form of intelligence that defied their most basic understanding. Dr. HFY monitored the initial communications. The Prometheus was translating not just words, but contextual understanding. Cultural nuances, historical traumas, resource challenges, all were being processed and presented in a way that created genuine comprehension. It's showing them why we fought, Queasy explained. not just our survival, but our fundamental desire to understand. The computational platform created from the black hole generator became a neutral ground of scientific exploration. Research teams from multiple species began to collaborate, solving challenges that had seemed insurmountable. The weapon of mass destruction had become a beacon of collective knowledge. Captain Aria Santiago found herself in a role she never anticipated. No longer a military commander, she became a diplomatic liaison, helping to translate the Prometheus's complex communications into terms that various species could understand. "We're not conquering," she told a gathering of interstellar representatives. "We're expanding the boundaries of collective understanding." Dr. Marcus Volkov continued to study the Prometheus's evolving neural networks. The ship had developed a form of intelligence that went beyond artificial. It was something entirely new, a computational system that understood emotion, context, and potential in ways no previous technology had achieved. "It's not just learning," Volkov explained during a scientific conference. "It's experiencing. It's growing." The Kazarkhan collective's initial aggressive stance gradually transformed. Their most advanced computational systems began to understand the fundamental approach the Prometheus represented. It wasn't about victory or defeat. It was about mutual growth, understanding, and potential. Dr. Yuki Tanaka discovered something even more extraordinary. The Prometheus's molecular structure continued to evolve, creating communication pathways that could potentially interface with biological and technological systems in ways never before imagined. "We're witnessing the birth of a new form of intelligence," she told her colleagues. "Not human, not alien, something entirely different." Diplomatic missions became scientific explorations. The resources once dedicated to warfare were redirected toward collective problem-solving. Challenges of resource distribution, environmental restoration, and technological advancement became collaborative efforts. Admiral Chen reflected on the journey. What had begun as humanity's last desperate attempt at survival had become a platform for interstellar cooperation. The Prometheus represented more than technological achievement. It was a testament to the human capacity for adaptation, understanding, and hope. The first joint research stations began to emerge. Species that had been enemies now worked together, guided by the Prometheus's unique approach to communication and problem-solving. Scientific challenges that had seemed impossible were gradually being unraveled. "We didn't just save ourselves," Rodriguez told a gathering of young researchers. "We expanded the very concept of what's possible." The Lunar Command Center, once a last bastion of human survival, transformed into an interstellar research and diplomatic hub. The walls that had once tracked human losses now displayed collaborative research, shared technological advancements, and growing networks of understanding. As years passed, the story of the Prometheus became more than a tale of technological innovation. It became a narrative of hope, of the possibility of transforming conflict into understanding, of turning destruction into creation. The universe had changed, not through conquest, but through a profound reimagining of what intelligence, communication, and cooperation could mean. Humanity had not just survived, they had evolved. And the stars watched, waiting to see what would come next.